The military helicopter touched down at the edge of what appeared to be an ordinary forest in the Wyoming wilderness. Nothing about this location seemed special to Lena as she stepped onto the damp ground, equipment bag slung over her shoulder. "This is it? Your mysterious hotspot is a regular forest?" she asked, squinting at Reed through the morning mist. The colonel checked his GPS unit before answering. "The entrance is approximately half a mile ahead. And this isn't regular forest, Doctor. Notice anything unusual?" Lena paused, taking in her surroundings more carefully. The silence hit her first, no birdsong, no insects buzzing. The trees stood unnaturally still, despite the light breeze she could feel on her skin. "It's dead," she realized. "Not visibly, but there's no ecosystem activity." Reed nodded approvingly. "The indigenous people called this the empty place. They wouldn't hunt here, wouldn't even walk through. Said the ground swallowed dreams." As they hiked deeper into the woods, Lena's specialized equipment began registering increasingly unusual readings. The electromagnetic fluctuations grew stronger, forming patterns that reminded her of the signal from her lab. "How long has the military known about this place?" she asked, breaking the eerie silence. Reed ducked under a low-hanging branch. "Officially? Since 1952, when a geological survey team disappeared. Unofficially? We've had Native American scouts reporting oddities here since before the Civil War." They reached a small clearing where the trees formed an almost perfect circle. At its center sat what appeared to be a stone well, ancient and covered in moss. "Is that it? The entrance?" Reed approached the well cautiously. "One of them. There are 7 access points around the world. This is the only one on U.S. soil." Lena's scientific mind struggled to process the implications. "Access points to what exactly?" "Their domain." Reed removed equipment from his pack, advanced scanning technology she didn't recognize. "The beings below call themselves the Nephirim. They've been here longer than us." A mixture of excitement and fear coursed through Lena. "You've had contact?" "Limited. Mostly through dreams." Reed seemed uncomfortable admitting this. "They communicate differently. It took us decades to understand they were even trying to talk to us." Reed activated his device, and a 3-dimensional map appeared, showing tunnel systems extending miles below their feet, an impossible labyrinth that contradicted everything Lena knew about geology. "This can't be natural," she whispered. "It's not. They engineered it, just as they engineered much of Earth's early development." Reed looked at her directly. "Including us." Before Lena could process this bombshell, her own equipment began frantically beeping. The signal strength had increased tenfold in seconds. "They know we're here," Reed said tensely, drawing a sidearm she hadn't noticed before. The ground beneath them trembled slightly, and Lena watched in astonishment as the stone well center began to glow with a soft blue light. "Is this normal?" she asked, backing away instinctively. Reed's expression tightened. "No. They've never initiated contact this way before." A column of the blue light shot upward from the well, then expanded outward to form a dome over the clearing. Inside this dome, the air seemed to thicken, becoming almost liquid in its consistency. "What's happening?" Lena gasped, finding it suddenly difficult to speak. Reed didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the center of the well, where the light was coalescing into a form, humanoid but distinctly not human. Its proportions were slightly wrong, its movements too fluid. "Human visitors," came a voice that Lena felt rather than heard, resonating directly in her mind. "The soldier returns, bringing a seeker of knowledge." Reed lowered his weapon slightly. "We detected increased activity. The treaty specifies." "Treaties," the glowing figure interrupted, "become irrelevant when extinction approaches." "Extinction?" Lena couldn't stop herself from asking. Whose extinction? The figure turned toward her, and though it had no discernible eyes, she felt its attention like a physical weight. All life on the surface, curious one. The cycle approaches completion once more. Reed tensed beside her. That's not what your council told us. We had an agreement. Circumstances have changed. The figure gestured, and the blue light formed images around them, melting ice caps, violent storms, erupting volcanoes. Your kind accelerated the timetable. We must reclaim the surface sooner than planned. Lena's mind raced, connecting impossible dots. You're saying you're going to, what? Take over? We are saying, Dr. Lena Bishop, the figure replied, using her name though it had never been spoken, that you must make a choice. Very soon. The blue light contracted suddenly, and the figure gestured toward the well. Come below. See the truth with your own eyes. Then decide. The figure dissolved back into the well, leaving Lena and Reed standing in the now normal clearing. What did it mean by reclaim? Lena demanded, turning to Reed. His face was grim. It means, Doctor, that everything I was authorized to tell you was a lie. The real truth is much worse. Are we going down there? Reed checked his weapon and nodded. We don't have a choice anymore. They've invited us in, and that never happens. As they approached the well, Lena couldn't shake the feeling that she was walking willingly into her own grave. The remote sensing array wasn't supposed to pick up anomalies from beneath the Earth's crust. That's what made the blinking red notification on Lena Bishop's monitor so unsettling. That's impossible, she whispered, adjusting her glasses as she leaned closer to the screen. 3 years as the lead geophysicist at the Montana facility had taught her to trust the equipment, but this defied explanation. The signal pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat, emanating from 2 miles beneath the surface where nothing biological should exist. Lena ran her fingers through her short auburn hair, a nervous habit that intensified when she was onto something big. She cross-referenced the data with seismic records, geological surveys, and even checked for equipment malfunctions. Nothing explained what she was seeing. Dr. Bishop? The voice startled her. Lieutenant Colonel Jasper Reed stood in the doorway, his imposing frame filling the entrance to her lab. His presence at the civilian research facility was unusual enough to make her suspicious. Colonel Reed. I wasn't aware the military had an interest in subterranean anomalies, she said, subtly minimizing the window on her screen. His steel-gray eyes narrowed slightly. We have an interest in many things, Doctor. Particularly signals that match patterns we've been monitoring for the past decade. The room suddenly felt colder. You've seen this before? Reed closed the door behind him. Not exactly this, but similar enough to warrant immediate classification of your discovery. He handed her a folder stamped with UMBRA, clearance, beyond top secret. What am I looking at? Lena asked, flipping through pages of similar readings dated years back, all from different locations around the world. Evidence that we're not alone, Dr. Bishop. And I don't mean aliens from another planet. Lena's scientific skepticism kicked in. With all due respect, Colonel, that's quite a leap from an unusual signal pattern. Reed didn't smile. 3 research teams made the same argument before their facilities experienced accidents. Sinkholes, gas leaks, structural failures. He paused, letting the implication sink in. They never published their findings. A chill ran down Lena's spine. Are you threatening me? I'm offering you a partnership. Something is down there, Dr. Bishop. Something that doesn't want to be found but is becoming increasingly active. I need someone who understands the science. Lena studied the data again. The pattern wasn't random, it contained sequences too ordered for natural phenomena. Why me? She asked, though she already suspected the answer. Because your work on deep Earth communications was closer to success than you realized. And because you're the only researcher who hypothesized that the Earth's core might host electromagnetic frequencies similar to neural patterns. Lena felt the weight of his words. Her most speculative paper, rejected by every scientific journal, had apparently caught the military's attention. What exactly are you proposing? Reed's expression remained unreadable. A field expedition. Just you and me, off the books. We have equipment that can help us locate the exact source. And if I refuse? Then I classify everything, confiscate your research, and you never work in this field again. But you won't refuse. His certainty was unnerving. Why's that? Because you've spent your career looking for answers others were afraid to find. This signal is calling to you, Dr. Bishop. I can see it in your eyes. He was right, damn him. The mystery pulled at her like gravity. When do we leave? She asked, already calculating what equipment they'd need. Now. Pack light. Where we're going, we won't want to leave a trace. As they prepared to depart, Lena couldn't shake the feeling that she was about to cross a threshold from which there would be no return. The descent into the well seemed to defy physics. Lena and Reed stepped onto a platform of blue light that carried them downward at an impossible speed, yet they felt no acceleration or discomfort. The walls around them transformed from rough stone to smooth, opalescent material that emitted its own gentle illumination. How deep are we going? Lena whispered, mesmerized by symbols that occasionally rippled across the walls like living text. Deeper than our instruments can measure, Reed replied, his military composure faltering slightly. The Nephrim don't exist in space quite the way we understand it. After what felt like minutes but could have been hours, the platform slowed. They emerged into a vast cavern that stretched beyond sight, filled with structures that resembled buildings but followed no human architectural logic, crystalline towers that branched like coral, suspended pathways that twisted in Mobius patterns, all bathed in that same blue bioluminescence. Incredible, Lena breathed. An entire civilization beneath our feet. One of many chambers, came that resonant voice again. The glowing figure from above materialized before them, more defined now. Its body was vaguely humanoid but translucent, with complex structures visible within that pulsed with energy. I am Thalion, speaker for the lower realms. Reed stepped forward. Your message mentioned extinction. Explain. Thalion gestured, and the air before them shimmered, forming images of Earth's history, but not as Lena had learned it. She watched civilizations rise and fall in rapid succession, technologies bloom and vanish, species evolve and disappear, a cycle repeated countless times. Your kind believes itself to be the first masters of Earth, Thalion explained. You are merely the most recent. The surface renews itself periodically. It is necessary for the planet's balance. You're talking about engineered extinction events, Lena realized, horror dawning. The dinosaurs, the ice ages. Transitions, Thalion corrected. We guide the planet's evolution. We have done so for billions of years. Reed's hand moved subtly toward his weapon. And now you're planning another transition? Not planning. Responding. Thalion's form rippled with what might have been agitation. Your species has damaged the planetary systems beyond their natural resilience. The cycle must advance prematurely, or all will be lost. How many will survive? Lena asked, her voice barely audible. Few surface dwellers. Those with genetic compatibility may join us below. The rest. Thalion's form dimmed slightly. And you brought us here to what? Warn us. Give us a chance to save ourselves. Lena challenged. No, Lena Bishop. You are here because you are different. Your mind perceives patterns others cannot. You understand deep connections. Thalion moved closer. You could help ease the transition. Preserve what knowledge should endure. Reed stepped between them. She's not collaborating in genocide. Thalion's form flickered. It is salvation, not genocide. And the choice is hers. The being turned to Lena. You sense the truth in my words. The surface has months, perhaps a year, before the system's collapse begins. Work with us, and billions might be spared the worst suffering. Don't listen, Reed warned. They've manipulated humanity for eons. We've guided you, Thalion countered. As a gardener guides plants. Lena stood frozen between them, her scientist's mind grappling with revelations that shattered her understanding of human history and Earth's future. Whatever she decided next would change everything. Lena's heart pounded as the weight of Thalion's revelation pressed upon her. The crystalline chamber seemed to pulse in rhythm with her racing thoughts, its light dimming and brightening as if sensing her inner turmoil. If what you're saying is true, she began carefully, why choose now to reveal yourselves? Why not centuries ago, when we might have changed course? Thalion's form rippled with what might have been frustration. We did. Through dreams, through inspired individuals you called prophets and madmen. Your kind ignored the warnings, dismissed the messengers. Reed scoffed. Convenient excuse. It is not an excuse, Thalion replied. It is the reality of guiding a species that refuses guidance. Lena moved away from both of them, needing space to think. The impossible architecture of the Nephrim city stretched around her, a civilization that made human achievement seem like a child's sand castle beside a modern metropolis. Show me proof, she demanded suddenly, turning back to face Thalion. Not visions or stories, tangible evidence that what you're saying about Earth's condition is accurate. Thalion extended a luminous appendage, and a section of the chamber wall transformed into what appeared to be a real-time display of Earth systems, oceanic currents, atmospheric compositions, magnetic field fluctuations. The data was presented in unfamiliar formats, but to Lena's trained eye, the patterns were unmistakable. The Gulf Stream collapse, she murmured, recognizing one pattern. It's already begun. Her eyes darted to another section. And the methane releases in Siberia. They're exponential now. Reed moved beside her, his military training insufficient for interpreting the complex data. What does this mean in practical terms? It means they're right about the timeline, Lena admitted, her voice hollow. The cascading failures, once they start accelerating like this, they're unstoppable. So we just surrender? Reed's voice hardened. Let them decide who lives and dies. Thalion's form pulsed gently. Your alternative is everyone dies, Lieutenant Colonel. The surface becomes uninhabitable for millennia. Lena stared at the data, her scientist's mind calculating possibilities while her human heart rebelled against the conclusions. There must be a third option. A way to stabilize the systems temporarily while we develop long-term solutions. Impossible, Thalion stated. The damage is too extensive. Nothing is impossible, Lena countered, years of scientific problem-solving asserting themselves. You have technology beyond our comprehension. You've guided Earth's development for eons. There must be interventions short of wiping out humanity. Reed looked at her with newfound respect. What are you suggesting? A collaboration. Not surrender, not extinction, true partnership. Lena faced Thalion directly. Your knowledge combined with our adaptability. We help repair what we've damaged, you give us the tools and time to do it. Thalion's form dimmed slightly. The Council will not agree. The cycle has never been interrupted. Then maybe it's time for your kind to evolve too, Lena challenged. Rigid adherence to ancient patterns isn't adaptation, it's stagnation. The chamber fell silent as Thalion seemed to consider her words. Finally, the being spoke again, its voice resonating differently. You will present this proposal to the Council yourself. It wasn't a request. Reed tensed. She's not going anywhere alone. Then you will accompany her, Thalion conceded. But be warned, no human has ever addressed the council. The experience may overwhelm your consciousness. Lena met Reed's concerned gaze with determined eyes. If there's even a chance to save billions of lives, we have to try. As they followed Thalion deeper into the underground realm, Lena realized she had committed to becoming humanity's unlikely ambassador to a civilization that had watched species rise and fall like seasons. The irony wasn't lost on her. A scientist who had spent her life studying Earth's depths was now its last hope for survival.